I mean, both cars were destroyed, and I walked out of it just going, well, okay.
Oh my God.
But, so I think maybe, John Legend's looking after me.
Somebody is. But seriously, how do you find the time in your day? What does a day in your life look like?
Well, when I'm home, I'm just dad. I've got 3 great kids, and I've got 2 grandsons, twin grandsons, Falcon and Riot.
Oh my gosh.
3 years old, and they are like, Papa. But they look at me, they see Alice Cooper on TV, and they go, oh, it's Papa. And I don't scare them at all. It's just weird, So I'm, I am dad, and I am, just getting ready for my 42nd wedding anniversary.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Cheryl was the original ballerina in Welcome to My Nightmare. And when she was 18 years old, and she still plays the ballerina now, a new character. And she also, but as a ragdoll, coming out of a toy box. But she dances better now than she did then. And she also plays my Nurse Rosetta, which is this just horrific nurse, Day of the Dead nurse. So it's so much fun to tour, with a great band. I got the best touring band ever. And then have your wife playing opposite you as your adversary on stage. It's really fun to tour now like that.
It's wonderful to be able to work with someone that you love.
Yeah, it is.
Carry that relationship.
We're putting makeup on backstage and talking about, hey, what do you want to do tomorrow? Let's go see a movie. And then we look at each other and go, eesh.
Well, let's take it back to when you originally started in music, which was high school. You had the band, and the band actually came together, if I read things correctly, under sort of a unique situation of a talent show, right?
Well, I was 15, so I was at the perfect age for when the Beatles came out. And I was painting a house, and the radio was always on, and all of a sudden I heard, she loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I went, what was that? Because it was different. It was so different. It had this vibrance to it. It had this something I'd never heard before. And then 2 hours later, I heard Please, Please Me. Then I heard I Want to Hold Your Hand. And they were playing all these songs that were just coming out of nowhere. So I was right in the middle of the British invasion, that changed everything, the look, the sound, and I was right in the middle of it, and I knew exactly that's what I wanted to do. It took a while, being in a band, it took a while to understand where you were going to be, what you were going to do to make it different. And being an art student, all the guys in the band were art students. I looked and I said, there's hundreds of Peter Pans out there and no Captain Hook. There's no villain in rock.
My in.
I will gladly be the villain of rock, and so to create the character Alice Cooper, well, that's going to piss off every parent in America. And, because here's in 1969, 1970, and there's this guy named Alice Cooper, and he's got a snake, and he's got a guillotine, and there's chopped up baby dolls everywhere, and there's blood everywhere, and I'm not letting my kid go see that. Of course it was all fun. But we did scare pretty much everybody. We were sort of Marilyn Manson times 10.
Oh, absolutely, and before any of that, so really.
So it terrified a lot of people until they kind of got at the idea that I played Alice Cooper. He's a character that I played, and that I actually had another life over here. But it took a while before anybody understood
the
that.
separation.
Yeah, we had to do a few Johnny Carson shows where I would sit and talk on the panel, and they went, "Oh, you can talk,"
Well, there's this great urban legend, which I was sad to find out it was an urban legend, about the origin of the name.
Yeah.
That originally the name came from like a Ouija board session, and then I read that wasn't true.
Well, it's a better story than the real story.
Right.
So never let the truth get in the way of a good story. There was a guy and his mother that said they went to the Ouija board. First of all, bad idea. Ouija board is not a good idea. You don't know what you're letting in. They said, "Who is Alice Cooper?" And I remember Vincent Furnier, and he's a 13th century witch and all this. And we all went, "That's good." It's better than the real thing that happened was we sat around saying, we had these horrific names, Husky Baby Sandwich.
Yeah, what were the alternate names?
They were some really horrific names, and I said, no, let's not do the obvious thing. Let's give them the name of some sweet old lady that lives down the block that makes cookies for the kids, Alice Cooper. That was the sweetest little old lady name I could think of. And it just did, but it also had this threat to it. Baby Jane, Lizzie Borden, Alice Cooper. There was a rhythm to it that made it sound dangerous. And when you saw the band with that name, it really did kind of go, ooh.
What is juxtaposition.
This? Yeah, it really was. It really was. That was truly what we were playing at. And then when you give them the show on top of it, and they'd never seen anything like this, well, nobody knew how to take it. It was fun to watch, but is this real? What is going on? It really truly scared everybody.
And you mentioned Baby Jane and Betty Davis and whatever happened to Baby Jane.
Yeah.
Was there sort of inspiration?
There was, to design the character Alice, there were two characters. Barbarella, the evil queen, remember? The queen, the black queen, Anita Pallenberg. I saw that, and she had switchblades coming out of her wrists. And she was all in black leather, Emma Peel kind of black leather. I went, that's a good look for Alice right there. And then I saw Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. And here's this 70-year-old woman trying to be a 9-year-old girl with this white makeup on it, and the eye makeup doesn't match, and it's smeared, and it's cracked. The white makeup is cracked, which even made it more horrific. And I said, that with that. Yes.
And then name also.
Yes,
that is awesome.
That would do it for me if I were, And I think that it just took a while for people to digest it and then totally understand that it was a production, it was a show, it was a character. Alice Cooper was as much a character as Jack the Ripper or, Jekyll and Hyde, and I played him. I played this character.
That is amazing. First, we're going to take some questions from the audience, so you guys can line up.
No math.
No math, that's the only rule. And while they're lining up, I want to know, with your stage shows, they're so, like we were saying, they were the first of their kind.
Yeah.
How did you sort of conceive that? You came up with the character, but then how did you encompass the whole thing into the hour and a half?
Well, if you see what happens on Broadway, the lyrics drives what happens on stage. Whatever happens in the lyrics is going to happen on stage. So I said, if you say, welcome to my nightmare, give them the nightmare. Don't just say it. Make the bed come down on stage and the dancers come from under the bed. And who knows at that point, who knows what's going to happen? The next lyrics, Cold Ethel. Well, who's Cold Ethel? Well, she lives in a refrigerator and she's not exactly alive. So what's Alice going to do with her? That keeps the audience going, well, what's going to happen now? And we still do the show like that. The show is still like that. So every time I write a new album, Paranormal was the last album, it's like, make that album come to life now,
Right, and how do you prepare to go on stage?
I think it's that's funny because, we had a restaurant, somebody said, how do you prepare your chickens? And I said, well, you just tell them they're going to die. No way of preparing them, it's cool. No. But I'm sorry, we're not
We don't mind.
I surround myself with a lot of people that know how I think when it comes to production. And if you can make it scary and funny, first scare it and then a little bit, oh, I get it, or sometimes just scary, just to leave them with something that's really kind of cold, that works, but always keep the audience off guard so that they really know what's going to happen next. Same thing when you do the guillotine. When I go to the circus and I see the circus and I see a guy in a cage with real lions and he's got a chair, whoa, he could get killed at any minute. I mean, if those lions or tigers decide to take him out, they're going to. I said the way to make the guillotine work is to make sure it's a real blade. Make sure it's a razor sharp 40-pound blade. and then it only misses me by 6 inches every night. Because the audience then goes, wow, this could actually be the real night that it happens. Well, I like that in the show. I want that in the show. I don't want it to be like, oh, it's just a special effect. I mean, if I didn't move at the right time.
Well, that suspension is just there.
And that's part of the Alice Cooper show.
Yeah.
You know, I like that part of the circus in our show.
I love it. I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi. Your book, Golf Monster, was a big inspiration to me when I dealt with my own recovery 8 years ago now.
Oh, good. 8 years, great.
Thanks. And I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about, you know, how you deal with staying sober when you're on the road and surrounded by the whole rock and roll lifestyle.
I had a totally spiritual thing happen to me when I grew up in a Christian church, and my dad was a pastor, my grandfather was an evangelist, my wife's dad is a pastor.
Surrounded by them.
He was real happy when we met me. I wasn't exactly a Christian at the time. But anyways, I went into the hospital. I was the classic alcoholic. An alcoholic is somebody that doesn't just drink a lot. An alcoholic is somebody that uses alcohol as medicine. In other words, I've got to do this interview, so I better go have a drink. I've got to write a letter to my boss, I better have a drink. That's what, it's not the amount, it's why you're drinking, you know. And so I was the classic alcoholic. Only nobody knew it because I was so good at hiding it. I never missed a show, never slurred a word, never stumbled, or anything like that. So I hid it really well. I went into the hospital, and when I came out, I said, tomorrow is going to be hell, because I know how much I'm going to crave a drink. So I got out of the hospital, went right to a bar, sat down, had a Coke, surrounded by alcohol. And I went, and I'm waiting for the craving to come in. And it didn't come. I said, tomorrow morning's going to be awful. Because the first thing I did in the morning was before I opened my eyes, I'd go like this, pop a beer and drink it, then open my eyes. That was,
wow.
Yeah. And the next morning, no craving. 37 years, no craving.
Wow.
So, I'm not a cured alcoholic, I'm a healed alcoholic. It was a miracle, it was a total miracle. Even the doctor said, this is beyond anything I've ever seen. You should be in AA, you should have a sponsor, you should never be alone at a bar or near a mini bar. And I said, I have absolutely no desire to ever have a drink. It doesn't even occur to me to have a drink. So it was totally taken away. It was truly a miracle.
It is, and it's so amazing that, you know, you're Alice Cooper. You have accomplished so much in your career, and yet you're inspiring this man from your personal life.
Well, and not everybody's going to have that experience. So whatever it takes for you to stay away from it, and you know, you have to understand, you feel 100 times better without it, right?
Yes.
You know, Joe Perry once said, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And that's exactly it, you know? I mean, I don't miss it one bit, not a bit. And yet, when I was drinking, I couldn't imagine living without it. It was very, very strange. The drug, it's a drug, for one thing. Don't pretend it's not a drug. And its nature is to give you the idea that you're in control. It's the same thing with cocaine. Cocaine gives you the nature that I'm in total control, where you're in total not control. You know, but that's the illusion it gives you. So that's the addiction right there. You can be addicted to being straight. I got addicted to being straight, that's all.
And golf.
Yeah. Well, golf helped because I knew I had an addicted personality. So I said, I've got to find something that's not going to kill me that I'm addicted to. You know. And the last thing a kid from Detroit, who is Alice Cooper, thinks of is golf. You know, but I lived in Arizona, and I said, well, it takes 5 hours. I'll go out and do this. I hit the first shot right down the middle. You know, and I was a natural. And so I got addicted to that. I play 6 days a week. I play every day.
That's awesome. And by the way, that is a great book. If you guys haven't read it, regardless of if you're in recovery or not, it's an amazing book. I read it in the last couple months.
Oh,
so,
thank you,
yeah.
thank you. And you know, I mean, the thing about it was, I thought, well, I'm going to lose Alice now because Alice's formula was alcohol and this and this and this, and that's how it became Alice Cooper. the show got 100 times better without it. I mean, the show was now so much better. I became a better singer. I became a better writer. I became, alcohol with anything was slowing me down. It wasn't helping me. But in my head, I was thinking that I can't lose that formula, So it's a fake formula.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Good
you.
luck to you. Hi.
Okay, one of my actual favorite episodes of The Muppet Show is when you were on there. Disney podcast, so I have to ask something that's Disney related. So I was wondering what the experience was like trying to take when you're normally doing a very scary type of stage show, and now you're working with the Muppets, and you have to kind of tone it down, but still kept that wacky weirdness in there.
Yeah, it was, first of all, I watched the Muppets every day. It was the #1 show in the world. And they called me and they said, well, you do the Muppet Show. And I went, I just spent all this time becoming the most, villainous character in the world. I got everybody convinced of that. And then I can't go do the Muppet Show. And I said, who did it recently? And they went, Christopher Lee, Vincent Price. I said, I'm in. Because if those guys can do it, I can do it. Okay, I was a little fly on the wall compared to those guys in the horror world. And so I said I'd do it. And I never had so much fun in my life as doing the Muppet Show, because when Frank Oz was doing it, and all the original guys, Hanson and everybody. Now, after a week of rehearsal, you start treating these characters as people. And you can't help it. Miss Piggy's here, and we're rehearsing You and Me, and I said, and we do the whole song, and I said, it would be great if you put your head on my shoulder on this one part. Oh, that's a great idea, and I said, and because I realized I was talking to a piece of felt, but she was reacting so well to me,
It just felt so natural.
Honestly, when you're rehearsing with them, you're talking to them, and they respond back exactly like a person would, and you buy right into it, And I'm talking to Kermit, I said, so? He says, how many shows have you done with Val? Well, after a while, it's just very natural to be treating them like real people. I never had so much fun. It was really, and they let us do what we wanted to do. The Faust thing about selling your soul to become a rock star. So well written, it rehearsed really well and everything. It really was the most fun I've ever had doing a TV show, that's for sure.
It was a great episode.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi, Mr. Cooper. I just wanted to say first, I saw you here in Kansas City with Motley Crue a couple of years ago, and I'm going to tell you right now, while they were awesome, I was worn out by the end of your set because it was so amazing.
Thank
so
you.
that was just absolutely killer.
Thank you.
But what I wanted to ask you was, my first exposure to you when I was a kid, I was a huge fan of WWF.
Yeah.
And you were there with Jake the Snake Roberts and all of that good stuff. And that was, I was a little kid, like, who's Alice Cooper? And then that just kind of brought me into the Alice world. Can you tell us a little bit about your time, how you got involved in that, and what it was like?
Well, first of all, Jake the Snake, it made sense to have Alice and the Snake, because I was using the boa constrictor on stage, and that was pretty much my signature. And I had never really thought about the wrestling world that much. Didn't have any idea that there were 90,000 people in Detroit in the stadium, 60,000 of which were old ladies with gray hair yelling, "Kill him," which was really surrealistic, And I said, well, that'd be great. What do we do? Because you have to rehearse this stuff. Okay, well, you're going to break the chair over my head, and then you break the guitar over his head, and this and that and the snake. Now, Jake's snake, Damien, was mean. Because Jake treated him pretty mean. He was a big snake. Our snakes got pampered compared, This snake was angry. So, when I grabbed him, he wanted to take my face off, and I grabbed him like this. I had to hold him with all my might, because he was a big snake. And the great thing was backstage, because the absurdity of it, you have all these wrestlers in there, and they're all, thinking about what the thing is. And there's these four dwarfs, that are yelling at Andre the Giant because he slammed one of them. You know, you're not supposed to slam us. Oh, I'm sorry. You know. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, wow, what kind of theater is this? This is the craziest theater I've ever seen. And it was pure theater. But these guys are athletes. I mean, when the guy hits a guy with a chair, he hits him. So these guys have got to be really good athletes. I didn't think they were until I was at rehearsal and watched the whole thing. And I mean, they're a different breed. I mean, these guys are a different breed. They bleed, and they really bleed. I mean, but they're having the time of their life doing this thing. And I said, it's a whole different world of theater, the WWF is. You know, it's a great theater, but it's totally different from what I do. But I get it. I get what they're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. Hi.
Hi there. I work at the School of Rock here in town. I was wondering what advice you might have for my kids that are coming up and interested in rock and roll, and they look up to you. And by the way, they are performing No More Mr. Nice Guy this season.
Oh, great.
Oh, nice.
I was so surprised at the Sundance Film Festival when the movie came out. I was asked to come up and do a couple songs with these kids, 10, 11, 12 years old. And, you know, I figured, well, we'll do Mr. Nice Guy, or we'll do 18th, 3-chord rock, you know, it'll be like that. I got there and they were practicing 21st Century Schizoid Man by King Crimson. My band would have to learn that. It'd take a week for my band to learn that, and they're good. My band is great. Here's these kids playing all this really complicated prog rock stuff, and are you kidding me? You know, I was amazed at the talent involved in so, because they're prodigies. A lot of these kids are prodigies. And I would say, you know what? First of all, when I talk to young bands, bands come to me and they got all the image in the world. You know, they're dark and they're good-looking kids and they're young and they're angry and this and that and then they play me the song and I go, where's the song? I get it. You're angry. I got that part. You're yelling at me. Okay, I get it. Now, I'm going to ask you to do something that you're not going to be able to do. What? We'll do anything. I said, okay. For the next 2 weeks, I only want you to listen to the Beatles, the Beach Boys, and maybe the Four Seasons. Or maybe Burt Bacharach. I said, now listen to the way a song is constructed. I want you to listen to the construction of the song, how it goes from an opening to a verse to a B section to a bridge into a chorus, back to a bridge, back to a whatever. And then write me an angry song. But put a melody to it. And you can put an angry melody to it, but they can't do it. Because they're so involved in the anger of it that they can't listen to a simple song and say, write me an angry song, but make it a song. My producer, Bob Ezra, I mean, we did some of the most dastardly, horrible, lyric, but you could sit at a piano and play each one of them. You could take any song that we did and play piano and sing it as a melody. That was one thing that had to be there. If you don't have those songs, then Alice Cooper's a puppet show. That you have to have the songs before you do the theater. And a lot of bands just don't understand that. So have your kids listen to the Beatles.
Yes, sir.
And then tell them right from there. It doesn't matter what they write, as long as they know how a construction of a song goes.
That's great advice.
Thank you.
Thank you. What is your philosophy? Obviously, the music industry has changed tenfold since you entered into the business. What is your philosophy now with songs being released as singles versus an entire album being constructed that tells a whole story?
First of all, everything's so wimpy out there, I can't believe it. It is so wimpy. Young rock bands have forgotten to be outlaws. Part of being a rock band is being an outlaw. It was part of separating yourself from the norm. We're not acceptable. That's part of being in a rock band. Guns N' Roses, Aerosmith, Alice Cooper, all the bands that were outlaws were the bands that everybody wanted to be a rock star because they're pirates. They're really outside the law. can't find that anymore. I find bands that, you know, if you have a banjo and a ukulele and an accordion in your band, you're not a rock band. Okay? The only one allowed to have an accordion is Weird Al.
And he's in the moment.
And I'm telling you what, the bands like Mumford & Son, they're really good, really good band. And, but they have this Irish kind of, you know, pub rock thing that really works. They can use that kind of instrumentation and make it work, but not very many bands. And everybody's so politically correct, it's horrible. You know, I mean, political correctness is fine in its place, but I mean, rock bands are afraid to say anything.
Well, you know, it's taken a turn from artistry and a performance piece to just, you know, social media and performing for likes and. You know.
You know, can't even call what's going on in the music business rock. It's just modern music. You know, you get the Foo Fighters. Okay, that's a rock band. I'll give them that all the way. They're a great rock band. Green Day, rock band. You know, there are some really good rock bands out there. But I just wish there were more young bands that were with some attitude. Attitude is everything in rock and roll. When you get on stage, you're not one of the guys. You're something different. You know, and that's what a rock band should be. My son's band, he has a band called Co-op. And I taught them attitude. I mean, they're great. And they get on stage and they sell it. You know, that's part of the whole deal. I don't know, hopefully there's gonna be it's gonna recycle. I can't imagine 16-year-old kids wanting to be boring.
I know.
You know, or wanting to look like everybody else in the mall. You know, you wanted to go opposite of that. You wanted to find something opposite of that. The 80s, you know, all the hair bands, the Bon Jovis and the Motley Crues and all those bands were fun. Those were fun bands. And they wrote great songs.
Not all, you know, renegades.
But they had great shows. They looked great. They had image. I think you're going to see that again. I think that you're going to see a generation look at that and go, I want to do that. Because that was fun. I think it'll recycle.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Hi.
Alice, I've heard you talk before about your least favorite albums are the three you don't remember recording in the 1980s. What I want to know is, what is your favorite Alice Cooper album, and what about it that makes it your favorite?
Oh, that's like picking your favorite child, you know.
It's a toughie.
Because each album is a little era of your life. You know, and I look back at From the Inside. I just got out of the hospital and wrote that with Bernie Taupin. And it was fun because all the people in the institute that I was in were all insane. I went into this place and I thought everybody was in there for alcohol or cocaine or something. This guy over here was in, you know, for chopping up his sister. This guy over here was in, you know, and I realized I was in this place with true maniacs. The very last day that I was in there, this old man puts his arm around me, we're both in our robes, you know, he says, tomorrow, Alice, he says, you're gonna go home, and you're gonna be with your family, and your career's gonna start up again, and everything is gonna be fine. And I said, yeah, Joe, it's gonna be great, I can't wait, you know. He says, someday I'm gonna get out of here, and when I do, I'm gonna kill you.
And he still had his arm around you?
And I went, okay, Joe, I gotta go now. And, you know, and